So are you one of those golfers who feels they're a decent iron player, but when you get on par threes, you've got a good number, really fancy your chances, and you make what feels like an okay swing, but the ball's offline, comes up way short, and it's really, really difficult because you don't feel like you make much of a difference, if any different golf swing on the par threes than you do on the fairway. But the quality of the iron shots is huge, but what could it be? But what if the only thing you're getting wrong is the correct tee height for your par threes? So when we're on the fairway and we've got an iron shot, we've got no choice. Even though certain times of the year, like in the UK at the moment, we can lift, clean and place the ball, but the ball's on the ground, and then when we go to hit that iron shot, we know that when we make a good swing, we get that ball and then ground contact. So even though that one wasn't right out the middle of the golf club, we can see club speed 83 mile an hour, ball speed 107, low point 4 inches ahead, clubs travel down, and a relatively accurate shot. Now, obviously, that one being a little bit towards the toe cost me a little bit of distance. But like I said there, when the ball's on the ground, I think most golfers are aware that as they swing, they hit ball and then ground, get that low point ahead, clubs traveling down to hit the good shot. Now, I would always say as a coach that when you're on a par three and you get the chance to tee the ball up, it is guaranteeing the perfect lie, because even on the grass, the ball can just sit down a little bit, even when you've put it on that perfect lie. So I'm going to use some of the Castle tees. So I'm going to start with the green one, kind of very, very small. And I would expect a good struck 7-iron. That one wasn't great, to be a bit nearer kind of 160, 163 carry. So I'm going to hit a couple of shots just off the different tee heights and help you understand why maybe the wrong tee height for you could be costing you distance and accuracy. So green tee, first of all, again, 7-iron. So it's noticeable that even though the tee's tiny, that the ball's sitting up in the air there. So I'm going to try and make a very, very similar swing and get that low point ahead. So low point was ahead, but we can see the ball speed really, really dropped off. The strike was much higher up the club face, and we see a massive drop off in distance at 124 yards. Now that was off the green tee, which was still incredibly close to the ground. So now I'm going to go a little bit higher with red tee. But you can see straight away there's some alarm bells ringing there, isn't there? That I'm thinking, tee the ball up, make it easier. And yet I've actually made a decent swing there, and I've suddenly lost 40 yards. So let's go higher with the tee. And let's see again, let's really focus on getting that low point ahead. So that one even higher up the club face there. Now a little bit more towards the heel. So I saw quite a big jump in ball speed. Low point still 2.5 inches ahead, but still only 143 yards carry. So the massive issue is once the golf ball's on a tee, the ball's higher up in the air. But as you swing and get that low point ahead and the strike moves up the club face, you can see with the design of the club head, most of the mass is actually lower on the club face. So the higher up the club face we get, the more the ball's just going to pop up and forward with no real speed. Now, the other little challenge that golfers tend to see then is very quickly they understand that they're mishitting those. So in their head, they're then thinking, right, what can I do in order to make sure lower off the club face would strike the golf ball? Again, it's very, very common, and I see this with a lot of golfers when they come and see me in person, is they'll set up just as you do when the ball's on the floor, make the swing, and kind of feel that that's a great strike, but just hit the ball way offline. And we can see there, club head speed was good. Ball speed was right where I would expect, but the low point spin behind, the clubs then travelled up, even though I've swung a little bit from the inside, my club face has been very, very closed. And that's simply because as the club's travelling up, it's further around the arc, therefore, for me, the club face is closed more. But for some golfers, they might be leaving the club face open, and we've suddenly got slices, pulls, hooks. Even though they feel great strikes, it can be a massive issue with accuracy. So you can actually see, even though teeing the ball up, in theory, should be much, much more simple for you to hit a shot, because the ball's not on the floor, you should be able to get away with not being great at controlling low point and height of arc. But the danger actually can be that as the ball's in the air, one, you start hitting it off the wrong part of the club face, and some of the more powerful lofted clubs, there's even more mass down at the bottom and even less higher up. So you get even more punished with the apparent more forgiving golf clubs. So my thing would be, you need to play around a little bit with tee height and see what's best for you. But predominantly for me, I would tend to put the ball on the floor, or if I pushed it into the ground, literally I'd push it so low, I wouldn't use the castle tees personally. But if you find a height that you're like, that you can control strike and direction with, that's fine. And the castle tees give you real consistency. But I feel when the ball's on the floor, and this is true for me even when I get into my longer irons, is that I can get there, and obviously then I can treat it exactly like it is on the golf course, and I can stand there as though it's a fairway shot, put a decent swing on it, and we can see there, club head speed's around the same for me. That one's 113 mile an hour, 4 inches ahead. And even though that's come up a little shorter than I would expect, it's still a much better strike. And then if you can feel that there's that consistency on there, then you can set up, get that practice of hitting consistent shots. But if you are somebody that tees the ball up, and this is really, really important, I think when you practice, you need to practice some iron shots off the tee. Because if you're reacting to the ball being in the air and making a different swing, you need to make sure your swing is as consistent as possible. So if I was going to use castle tee, I would go green tee, and I would probably just have to feel like my divot wasn't as deep after. So the bottom of the swing will be a little higher, and it would help me just pick it a little bit more. But from there, strike felt good. And we can see 85.5 mile an hour club speed, round about that 115 ball speed, low point 2.9 inches after. Clubs travelled down, and if I said round about that 160 to 162 carry, that would be my perfect 7-iron. So the little green tee at a push I could get away with, but predominantly I see golfers teeing the ball too high. Like I said, it feels like it'll be easy because the ball's up in the air, but the massive issue is the higher you tee it, if you make your normal swing, you're going to hit it right off the face. The only way you can put the middle of the club face on is to make some adjustment, whether that's height of swing, low point control, but too often, guys, tee it too high, put a good swing on it. That one felt like it had nearly missed the club face, and we can see on TrackMan there, it did nearly miss the club face. 81 mile an hour club speed, 95 ball speed, low point fantastic, but a good 40 yards back. So make sure if you're practicing tee shots into par 3s, you need to make sure you find which tee height. Like for me, I'll tend to use the wooden tee and push that all the way in. But if you're using castle tees or something preset, find which one allows you to make your normal swing, retain your contact to get your distance, retains your accuracy or normal shape of shot. And if you can do that, I guarantee you're going to hit more greens, and even the ones that you miss, you're going to be nearer to the flag than ever before.